Very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Evening Review. My name is Toiwanje Bella, your host. Tonight on the platform, we are welcoming back Alex Shimuafeni. He is the Statistician General, also the CEO of the Namibia Statistics Agency, and he's here to help us understand the outrage, if I may call it that way, that has emerged out of the report, the census report that the Statistics Agency tabled or released recently with so many questions being asked, and Mr. Shimuafeni is here to help us contextualize some of the issues that have been raised. Thank you, Alex, for making time. It's always a pleasure because I invite you sometimes on very short notice, but you always avail yourself, so we appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Good evening.
Yeah, wonderful. Let's talk first about maybe outrage is a bit sensationalist, but there are pockets of questions being asked about the validity of the information that you've released and stuff like that. You must have, as an institution, sat down and assessed where this sort of discontent is coming from. What is your finding?
First of all, I must say that it's quite encouraging to see people engaging us to try to understand what we are releasing.
Yeah.
And for me as a CEO, it's very important to break it down, especially even to the layman, in terms of what are the statistics that we are releasing. It's not just a bunch of numbers, but these numbers have got meaning.
Yeah.
So people need to understand. And sometimes it's a matter of really having to, either you don't have the full information or you maybe didn't understand. And I could give examples of people maybe taking screenshots of a table and they didn't read the full information. But when they come to us, we have to explain to them what it is all about. So I think, but something that we need to learn from here is that, not that we don't do it, but we do have stakeholder engagements where we also need to speak to them in terms of explaining to them what is upcoming, or we actually start from the questionnaire design. People want to have questions in the questionnaire. And like I said before, at another platform, one of the rules of a survey is that each and every question that is in the questionnaire must serve a purpose. I can't ask a question if the question doesn't serve a purpose.
Absolutely. So let's look at, I mean, today in the Namibian newspaper, you had to defend the institution against accusations that there is political interference, and you say there's none. That accusation emerged out of these questions about the labor,
the labor statistics.
Yeah, labor statistics. For me, as an observer, just days or maybe a week before you released your report, we saw Professor Job Mpanda, on social media posting that NSA is planning to release its report, and that report would not contain unemployment statistics. They have been removed or they have been whatever. And true to that allegation, the report came out days later and it didn't have job employment statistics.
Yes.
Please explain to us what happened there.
Yeah, first of all, maybe just to go on the first part of the question in terms of allegation of, if I may call it, interference, is that the alleged people who might or could have interfered are the people who set up the law itself. Now, when we say that we release our statistics impartially, it's the same way that the Bank of Namibia does when they release the repo rates. They do it at the same time to everyone. We all know that if you get this information before somebody else, you might have a certain advantage. So it will be quite intriguing or interesting to see if people who set up the law, who are the ones that want to break the law. And to come to the question of having to remove a labor statistics from a report, maybe it's a way of definition, because if you say it's removed, then it's either it was published and then afterwards removed. Now, I sign off the reports. So, like I said earlier, that we just don't want to throw numbers without having to explain. We have what we call thematic reports that come afterwards. So when these figures come, if you look at the previous figures that are there, you talk about maybe out of a whole report of almost 80 pages, you might have something like 3 or 4 figures that are there. But this is something that you need to put in totality. For example, when you talk about labor force, by the international standards, for comparison purposes, also by the laws or employment laws of Namibia, they say anyone who's 15 years and above can be employed. Now, the same law also say that in Namibia, if you are 60 years and above, you're actually supposed to be on pension. Now, that figure just includes things like 15 years and above. Now, we also have a government policy that says if you are 15 years, or rather not 15 years, but if you are 15 years, yes, you are supposed to be in school, and then up to whether 18, 19, but also there's a concept from ILO that says, which you have also adopted in Namibia, that says compulsory school age, maximum compulsory school age, which is set at 24. Even people who are 24 might be still in school. So all we are saying is that, or what I am saying is that we need to put all these things into perspective in terms of break it down. Yes, give those figures. Also give those that are 16 and above, how many there are, 17 and above, 18 and above, up to 24 and above. Then you can give a total picture. So if the previous reports was only including that, 15 years and above, so why can we not improve it? That's really the approach.
Yeah. I mean, people say that the previous reports contained that kind of information, but somehow this year, and supposedly conveniently just ahead of the elections, the report this time around doesn't contain that information. Why did you change?
Yeah, first of all, we all know the history of the census. Every 10 years, it was supposed to be done in 2021. 2021, we had COVID, we couldn't do it. 2022, when we went to look for the funds for the census, just like our neighbors did theirs in 2022, the South Africa and Botswana as well. So then there was no money because money was more channeled to COVID-related effects. So we had to do ours in 2023. Had we done this census before, we wouldn't have been here because the figures will be out. And this also brings me to somebody trying to say that we are taking long or too long to release these reports. I must say that the census main reports, or what we also call the census basic report, we have released it 11 months after we have gone into the field. 24th of September was the reference night, 2023. But then we went on to, as far as I'm concerned, end of November, some cases beginning of December as well, if I'm not mistaken. But we have made the calculations, we have released the report around 11 months after going into the field. If you look at our neighbors, South Africa, even more so Botswana, where the populations are more comparable, they have taken around 21 months to release their main reports. Yeah, so to answer the question is that it's unfortunate that the census took place. We are fortunate because were possibilities that maybe we are going to do it also in 2024, but we managed to pull it off in 2023. And then just to go back also, in 2019, we didn't have any labor force survey. There was also no census, of course. It was the other 5 years of the cycle. That's really what it is. And then Botswana, who did theirs in 2022, they released the report around in 2024, around July, June, July. So were they also now moving it close to the census, or it was just a matter of having to finalize their reports?
So, yeah, I mean, for me, the concern is not very much around the time of releasing the data. Is again, Mr. Shimuafeni, with the previous reports contain this information. Why doesn't this one have that same information?
I don't want to give half-baked information, so that's, you want to have proper information. The information will come. It's solid information. We have worked also together with ILO, Ministry of Labor as well. So this is where we at with that information. Yeah.
So somebody pointed out something very interesting. As this debate raged, somebody said the Namibia Statistics Agency published information such as access to toilets, age, marriage age, and many other trivial matters. But the most burning issue in the country right now, young people on the streets without jobs, and people just want to know, where do we stand? And the government, the incoming government, whoever wins the November election, wants to, you would think that they need that information even to tell us, to say, NSA says unemployment is now standing at this level. You guys are campaigning. How are you going to use this information from NSA to address this issue for planning purposes, so that we also know as people who to vote for, who has the best plan to address the information that you just released? Now they do not have that information to work with. That makes it very difficult. How is it marriage age more important to be released into the public, but not unemployment statistics?
Yeah, these things are relative, because if you look at when we released the main report on the 30th of October, there was somebody who was a part of the disabled group. The person was mute, and the person also took us on to say, look, you have released the statistics on disability, which was grouped. It was not segregated in terms of how many people are mute, how many people have got this type of disability, and so on. So when we talk about the basic report, this is also the basic statistics that we are releasing. Now, just to go back on the burning issue of the labor statistics, we have a methodology called the ICLS, which stands for International Classification of Labor Statisticians. It's a conference that takes place annually in Rome at ILO. Namibia, we had ICLS 19. Definitions also change in terms of the previous ICLS that we have used was ICLS 13. So you also need to draw comparisons, but you don't want to draw comparisons of apples and oranges. You want to draw comparisons of likes with likes. So when you give out these statistics and you want to show how do they change comparing to those, and you need to draw inferences also to say, because we have two different ICLSs, you need to say that, okay, had we not have this type of definition and comparing to this one, or if you say that let's compare without bringing in the new definition and all these kind of things, this is where the report is in terms of having to make meaningful comparisons also. And I just learned now from you, if that's what you are insinuating, that seems like the statistics are now also used for political matters, but when you talk about for policy formulation and planning, we are referring to those, not to, because statistics, you can actually use it for your own advantage or for your own or for the other person's disadvantage. It depends on how you really look at it or how you want to present it.
Yeah, absolutely. We go for a very short break and then return with Alex Shimuafeni. Our conversation with the Statistician General Alex Shimuafeni continues. Now, Mr. Shimuafeni, so what will happen? Because to many of us, that employment statistics is very, very important. So do we have time frames? When will it be released? What are you still doing with it? Do we actually, because I suppose you have gathered that information. So are there any time frames within which you will release it? Or what is the stage now of that?
Yes, we, after the census report, or main report, we normally have what we call thematic reports.
Yeah.
And we have more than 9 thematic reports that are upcoming. We are talking about atlases, which is the distances to services. We are talking about the thematic reports for the labor. Of course, we are talking about thematic reports for agriculture, which I thought is also something important. Thematic reports for fertility as well as for the disability, the one that I was just referring to. So the reports will be released up to March next year, and we have a release calendar that is on that we have on our website, and then specifically for the labor statistics or the labor thematic report, we are releasing it on the 29th of January, 2025.
How does it look like? Is unemployment at 50%?
When I said that we release the data impartially, so we can't do that because you explained. Yeah, and in terms of the levels of where it is, we try to give a hint to say that we have some information of the levels of income that we have. You can make your estimates and so on. But this is not just a single figure. This is a figure that speaks across the various demographics of the country. Yes, obviously starting from 15 years and above. Also now, ICLS also includes a working age of 64 years, while the Labour Act says 60 years is retirement. So all that information will be unpacked in that report.
Okay. Let me just look at this statement that was released last week by Paulus Mbangu. He is a member of Parliament in the National Council. So because the information that has not been released so far, like the one that you just spoke about, is one thing. The other thing is about information that is released and people find it very contentious. I, for example, before I go to Mr. Mbangu's statement, I find it extremely unlikely, unless the statistics that I read, I'm misinterpreting them. But I find it extremely unlikely that 23% of the Namibian population is Xikanyama-speaking people. Because the entire Ovambu group all along has been at 49%. And to say that more than half of the Ovambu population, more than that, is one ethnic group, I find it very unlikely. I don't know how the questions were set up, because I do speak Xikanyama when I'm talking to Kwanyama friends, but that doesn't make me Kwanyama. So to say that the ethnic Kwanyama people are 23%, that sounds just unlikely. If you can engage me on something like
that. First of all, maybe just to technically correct you there, if you're talking about 49 and 23, it's still less than 50% of the 49. But to get to the question, how the questions were posed is people needed to to respond in terms of how they identify themselves, because you might have a parent who's one parent who's Kwanyama speaking, the other one might be Baja speaking. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. From your side. Then, but then what you respond is what normally will be recorded.
Yeah.
And in terms of the numbers, to say how big they are, so that is something else that we need now to look into and maybe analyze. How do the people, which are the people, or where exactly they are who responded to that, and which is also something else in terms of I can be Rukwangari speaking, but I'm not maybe in the Kavango area or Kavango West or East, but maybe I'm based in Windhoek or the South for that matter. But to answer the question is that people needed to pick themselves in terms of
how they identify themselves.
They identify themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, to the Paulus Mbangu statement, it raises a lot of issues, but for example, similar perhaps to what I just raised about the Obakwanyama population, he talks about the Mbunza population, which is at 5,000. And he says, this is so untrue that even a child can recognize it. He suggested, it's quite a technical statement that he made here, but I think he implies that if this was a true figure, it implies even that maybe this population is decreasing, because it ought to be much more. And he goes to speak about white people that are not segregated, people who are simply white, meaning, according to him, that we wouldn't know how many Afrikaners we have in the country, how many German-speaking Namibians do we have, and. If you can address me also on that.
Yeah, on the question of the whites, yes, that could have been an oversight, because you will have different types of ethnicities within whites. That is the case. But if you go back to the question in terms of the ethnicity that we are referring to, it's also something that we need to look into totality, and then also look into what goes with that. If it's a matter of the number of people that are there, because remember we're referring to the reference night, not the place of usual staying. Because if you go to your village in Ombaja and then you are not there, you will not be counted. You'll be counted in Windhoek. But we must also look at how people have identified themselves. Some people have identified themselves in terms of Oshuambo speaking instead of maybe Kwanyama or Ndonga or so. So, but the beauty of this is that, first of all, this was a GIS-enabled census. So each and every household has got a GIS coordinate. The figures that were put together, they can be, you can actually go back and say, where did we get, how were they put together to form those totals to get there. And then also look in the same areas, maybe how else did the people classify themselves. Remember, there was also the option of saying either I don't know or I don't want to tell. Yeah, so that could also be from there.
Yeah, because one of the things that, again, we are about to run out of time now, but one of the issues that I find actually very interesting in what the Member of Parliament raised here, he says, in Kapako constituency, which is a Mbunza area, that constituency has a population of 27,000 people. So it's a Mbunza area with inhabitants of 27,800 people. but we are saying that overall the entire country, the Mbunza population is only 5,000. He thinks that this couldn't be just correct, even if you assume that even according to explanation, to say people could have been here or could have said, look, I don't know, I don't want. He says that it possibly could not be. It's inconceivable that there can still be 5,000 people in a predominant area of when the population in which they predominantly live has a population of nearly 30,000.
Yes. From where I'm standing now, I'm not so sure whether that 27,000 is also referring them to the census figures or from previous sources that he had. But what we are saying is that it's something that we are going to break down further. In fact, we are also busy writing a response to National Council. And we did that proactively without being requested, really. Yeah. It's a matter that was discussed there. Apart from the two variables that I've mentioned about do not know or did not want to say, we also have to look at whether the people have classified themselves as maybe whether Rukavango or whatever ethnicity they have mentioned also. So we'll look into it and then we'll provide the necessary response.
Mr. Shimuafeni, thank you for always making time.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That is Alex Shimuafeni. He's the Statistician General and Chief Executive Officer of the Namibia Statistics Agency, helping us to understand what seems to have confused a lot of people, and that is the data that has been released, the census data that has been released by the NSA end of October. Thank you for watching.